Hey, my friends, I'm Steve Havill, purposeful performance coach, activation facilitator, and conscious community guide. On behalf of myself and Life Vest Inside, we're wishing you a happy World Kindness Week. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about the incredible power of being your authentic self. What does that even mean? Nowadays, you'll hear a lot of people talking about being your best self, living your best life. What does that even mean? How do you grok that? How do you get your arms around that so you understand with some context? You can get your teeth into that idea. Today, that's what I hope to open up for us, to be able to talk a little bit about some ways that you can get connected to the depth of the heart of who you are. So we're going to invite you to explore some questions. We're going to dig into a couple of little exercises. You can do them now, you can do them later, but I invite you to dig deep, to use this as an opportunity to really dig in and better understand the best of who you are so you can show up and contribute as greatly as you'd like to in these times of dynamic change. So let's answer the question. What does it mean to be your best self, to live your best life? Well, I might start with a question. I could ask you, when have you been at your best in life? Where have you been an expression of the sweet spot of who you are? It could be at certain family dinners where you're just so safe and comfortable, but you're just the life of the party. It could be when you're out with your friends. It could be any other situation where you feel completely liberated and free to just bring everything you got and be fully yourself without any considerations of what people will think, how you'll be judged. That's where I want you to look. Look at those times. So just take a beat right now. Just take a look, or offline, pause this video right here and take a look at one or two or three places in your life where you feel most expressed, most seen, most cared about, most comfortable and safe to be who you are. When you get there, it's gonna feel like when you were a kid, when you were out playing, just liberated and running free. It's gonna feel a little bit like, being out in that sweet spot with your friends where you're all laughing. You're not thinking about what to say next. You're not thinking about how it'll affect your job future. You're just being yourself. That's where I want you to look. So just start to play with your most authentic expression, being really, really courageous and being really generous with it. It's a practice. There's no getting it right. It's just about a step-by-step daily practice of bringing more of the real you to the party. Let's take a beat and talk a little bit about our interconnectedness, our inseparable nature. We are all children of one human family. We are all each other's brothers and sisters keepers. When we start to really grok, we get to recognize our interconnectedness, our interdependence, which has become so clear in this post-COVID world. We've seen it in so many ways of how there are many, many ways that we're connected. It helps us be more compassionate. It helps us be more vulnerable. It helps us be more real about the things we all share. In the middle of the last lockdown during COVID, in the first wave, kids were having to stay home. They were homeschooling. And we were out for a walk one day with our masks on, and we saw, this was my wife Shannon and I, and we saw this beautiful sidewalk art in front of many of the kids that were in school at the time, just writing cool sayings and expressions of hope and possibility. And it was so cool, and I'll never forget, the one that grabbed my heart the most was one that said, "The awareness that we all struggle is our greatest access to compassion." And it's true. We all have good days, we all have bad days. We're never on purpose and fully authentic all the time. So the compassion and the latitude within that compassion is so important. And one of the ways that I keep it very present for myself is to just give myself the grace to believe that to a very large degree, human beings are doing the very best that they can, doing what they think is right, based on their lived experience, based on their own journey, based on their awareness. And so it's important to honor that. And rather than judging or saying, hey, it doesn't match up with who I am, how can we be more curious? How can we let curiosity and our genuine care for people pave the way to compassion? Because people with very different worldviews than you, which is probably just about everybody, are going to have the potential of saying, no, I'm right, you're right, rather than getting curious, rather than looking for commonalities instead of differences. What is it that we all want as human beings? What is this great idea of we the people? We're just scratching the surface of that, and we're in the phase of the great reinvention of who we are as a nation. And it's a beautiful time, and it starts with you, with your authentic expression, with bringing the best of who you are. So sharing yourself vulnerably creates that safe space for others to be liberated, to open up and share themselves too. And that's what's most beautiful. That's the thing that I'm challenging you to really consider. Let's talk about heart-based leadership. For the last 5 or 7 years, I've been actively involved in the conscious business world. There are an emerging movement of movements, an ecosystem of conscious businesses. From Conscious Capitalism, Wisdom 2.0, Social Ventures Network, there are so many incredible organizations committed to having business be a force for good in the world. And the leaders of these organizations are thinking differently. Rather than a command and control style of, you do this or else, we're starting to be able to realize that the great art of the new world of business is heart-based leadership. You could call it servant leadership, you could call it stewardship, but it truly is coming alongside the organization rather than leading from the top, controlling from the top. It's about creating the conditions of success for the organization and all of its people to thrive. And what that requires, based on so many studies, and a recent study by Google that was one of the most impactful studies, helped realize that the key ingredient is this idea of psychological safety. It's a big thing to unpack, but ultimately what it means is that people feel safe to be vulnerable, to be authentic, to be courageous, to bring their full selves to the party. And when you can create that space as leaders, through your genuine care, through your curiosity, through your open-mindedness, through being willing to suspend judgment and really listen, we can begin to tap into the collective heart intelligence of the organization, of each individual, and it helps people really be able to say the unsayable in the corporate meeting. When you have a culture like that, where people feel free to stand up for what they believe, to say it openly, to say it courageously, that's really when you start to make some big moves in terms of evolving the business from a culture of I, where everybody's out for themselves, to a culture of we, where we're better together, where people stop saying, I work for this company, and they start saying, this is my company. It's really about that conscious culture that gets deliberately architected, and the leaders of the new world are the ones showing the way. They're modeling it. They're doing their own work. They're understanding the power of being authentic themselves. They're understanding the power of vulnerability, of messiness, of understanding that things that are self-organizing and that get stewarded of and by and for the people have a much stronger degree of resilience. And it also affects profitability, performance, and so many of other things that are important to businesses thriving in the new world. And let's face it, with AI emerging and with machines doing so many things, what used to be considered the soft skills of our interpersonal, of our relationships with others, are now the most important skills for conscious leaders. You might call them hard skills in today's world. In some ways, because they're kind of hard. They're hard to practice, they're hard to put in play, but once you get a taste of what it is to create an authentic space for your team, you won't be able to go back. It is the new landscape. It is the essential skills development for conscious leaders in this post-COVID world. All right, now let's go a little wider. As human beings, we have some incredible inner capacities that many of us have barely scratched the surface of. We truly have the ability to manage our emotions. That emotional self-control, EQ, is so important. We also have the ability to generate incredible amounts of love and positivity in the world. When we choose to, we can not only generate it within, but we can broadcast it out. And the other thing that we can do, we have incredible choice. We've been gifted with free will. We can choose our expression. We can choose to stay upset. We can choose to get over it. But those tools are things that haven't been taught very commonly in our life. How do we manage our emotions? How do we shift from a place of what my grandma might call stinking thinking into a place of positive contribution? And it can happen like that when we have the awareness. That's the beauty of heart intelligence, of moving from our rational mind and combining that wisdom, that intelligence, with our heart's wisdom, with our heart's guidance, with our inner knowing, that part of us that connects to the bigger picture, that connects to that higher source that might look different for different people. But just know the access point is through love, is through our heart. So, this great capacity to consciously direct our energy is something that I'm inviting you to really learn about, to play with. It's one of our greatest potential contributions in the world. To not just manage our emotions, but to direct our energy to the things that matter most. We have that capacity. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So rather than relating to life and to our emotions and to the things that happen, like the temperature, it is what it is. It's just a bad situation. We can recognize that we are not the temperature, my friends. We are the thermostat. We have the ability to change the weather. We can change the whole atmosphere in the room or of any space we go to simply by who we're being, simply by bringing the best of who you are. So rather than saving it for a special occasion, we want to invite you to get courageous and just every day turn it up a little more, a little bit more of that authentic you that only gets to be seen once in a while. Because when we have a space to liberate ourselves, to be out there and contribute greatly, people come out to play. It's amazing. I promise you that. Tuned into your chosen expression. All right, when you think about who you're choosing to be in the world, and you think about what your unique expression of love is, I'm just going to invite you to take a few minutes to dig into these exercises to connect with the most authentic expression of who you are. We did a little pre-work earlier. Now let's ask the question, and I want to invite you to take a moment, pause the video, and just journal about this for a minute. What are some of your unique strengths? What are the things that you're just awesome at? They could be strengths, they could be talents. Take a few and jot that down. Take a look at some of the things that you value the most. What are some of those, a short list of those top values, things that you find your behavior is always supporting? It could be integrity, it could be courage, it could be playfulness, it could be any number of those values, but just get present to the first few that come in. And then let's look at what you might call heart qualities. These are qualities of the heart that lift you up, that lift others up. They are generative in nature. Heart qualities are things like generosity, kindness, compassion, gratitude, courage, honor, dignity. There's, anything that brings that sense of fullness to you, that says, yeah, that's who I am. These are the heart qualities I'm talking about. Just take a few. Allow yourself to just take a first pass to get really comfortable with some of your strengths, values, and those heart qualities that best represent you. Take a moment, pause the recording, and do this exercise. Maybe just set a timer for 5 minutes and see what comes through. All right, good. Next question. I'd like you to think about what matters most to you in life right now. Think about the relationships that matter. Think about the projects, the initiatives. Think about the movements or things in the world that are happening that you have a commitment to, that you have some investment in. Get really, really clear on what matters most, because it becomes an incredible decision filter for where you direct your energy and what you choose to make a priority in your life. It also allows you to realize if something doesn't line up with those things, it's probably not the highest, best use of your time. So just take a moment now and just journal, or pause, take 5 minutes and come back afterwards with some clarity about what matters most. It's a valuable exercise. All right. Now the third thing I want to inquire with you about is, what do you stand for? What are the causes that you are for in life? There's a quote from Mother Teresa that I'm just going to paraphrase that says, "I will never go to an anti-war rally, but I will go to a pro-peace rally every day of the week." She understood the importance of being for something. See, there's a big difference between being for something and being against something. And it's a subtlety. If you are for something, you might imply that you are naturally against the opposite of that, but being for something has a different energetic direction. It allows people to receive your message differently. It allows you to have a greater impact without judging or making wrong others. It gives space for other people's perspectives. And yet it's a stand. Are there things in your world that you are a stand for? Take a moment, see if you can write down a few of those things, and continue this exploration with these 3 questions over the coming days. These 3 questions will get you so clearly in the neighborhood of your life's purpose that you will be able to know, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, this is the expression I'm choosing to bring. And what I guarantee is that people will start to change in your world. They'll start to relate to you differently. Life will feed back to you differently. You will get different responses when you come from the best of who you are, and you make that a committed journey. Okay, friends, as I bring it home, I want to close with an invitation to learn more about the power of heart intelligence. One of the great honors of my life is to be partnered with HeartMath, the organization. That's the word heart and the word math. This is the intersection of the mind and the heart. HeartMath's a 30-year-old organization that's worked with some of the leading companies, communities, organization, police, military, education across the spectrum. They have served greatly by helping people move purely from living from here to tap into the wisdom and intelligence of the heart and find this thing that science calls coherence, a measurable state of awareness where you're at the most efficient use of both the brilliance of our mind and the wisdom of our heart. HeartMath has a program that's available to everyone for free during these times of dynamic change in this post-COVID world. It's called the HeartMath Experience. You can go to heartmath.org or heartmath.com, search for the HeartMath Experience. It's a 90-minute program broken into 5 or 7-minute modules that give you 5 key practices, exercises to build heart coherence, to build your capacity to be more and more tuned into the wisdom of your heart and to express yourself. It's going to help you tune into your higher intuition. It's going to help you move through stress and anxiety more effectively. And it's going to help you collaborate with others in a more coherent way that I know you're going to love. I believe that each of us has been uniquely prepared through our life experience to serve greatly in this time of dynamic change. And you have a unique gift. You have a piece of the puzzle that no one else has. And when you bring the full measure of who you are to the party, when you start to live from a deeper place of your authenticity on a more consistent basis, you attract others and they bring their piece of the puzzle, and the view becomes much more clear for everyone of where we're going. This is the power of the collective heart. This is the mission that HeartMath stands for, of activating the heart of humanity. I want to invite you to join on that journey. I'm Steve Havill, coach, activation facilitator, and community guide. The world is waiting to meet your most authentic self. Believe in the heart of who you are.